Hey guys, welcome. Today it will be an epic session. Hello Dmitry, hello Georgiy. You're both from ElectroNeek, and we are here to watch a record attempt of your very nice RPA tool.
Thank you, Anders. It's a big pleasure to be your guest today. Really proud. And today, I'm a co-founder and chief innovation officer of the company. Georgiy is the head of product. So we will do you a live demo showing how we build a bot that will win browser automation part of RPA challenge. And we'll show you how even boost that result using some bot magic on top of that. Let me quickly just introduce what we do and what pretty much brings us today here. I spend a lot of time in big enterprise RPA, seeing the industry in very early days, as well as my co-founders. And we spent last 2 years taking RPA technology from enterprise market and bringing it to mid-market and small businesses. We found over time that in order to be successful there, you should be working with system integrators and managed service providers as end users of your technology. So what we did, we developed an integrated development environment, the tool to build bots that Georgiy will be showing in a minute. And whatever bots you build there, you can run in any environment, in any infrastructure, completely for free. It's like an IDE for JavaScript, for example, or any other computing language. What you build in that, you can run anywhere. To do that, you just download free bot runner. It's attended, unattended, however you use it, it's free. It allows pretty much our clients to serve many clients in mid-market, in SMB, sometimes in enterprise, completely free of any software technology charges. And that's pretty much what we do in the market. But first, let's take a look at the tool. I would be very happy to answer any questions about how we work and why we do that. But now I'll pass the word to Georgiy.
Go. I have a quick question, Dmitry, because the developers at my work, they ask, does your tool work in Linux?
Not yet.
Cool. On to Georgiy.
Okay, let me share my screen probably, because we're going to jump straight into the...
And Georgiy, you are head of product development at ElectroNeek. You seem very young. How old are you?
24.
That's impressive.
Georgiy was one of the first hires in our company, and over time proved to be great talent to work with.
So can I share my screen? Oh, I see.
Yeah, maybe I need to. Yeah, you're sharing your screen. So this is the tool.
Yeah, this is the platform. This is ElectroNeek Studio Pro, and that's where we're going to develop our bot today. So this tool itself is pretty simple and in a pretty traditional way that lots of IDEs have. So we have the canvas here in the center. That's where the algorithm is going to be developed. In the top left corner, some typical buttons such as create a new file and save this current file and all these kind of things. On the left-hand side, there are some groups of activities or functions, and we're going to use some of them today. On the right-hand side, some additional tabs such as properties. We're going to see how we can work with them today, and variables, and a typical solution console at the bottom. So this is pretty traditional, and at the same time, it's pretty convenient, and it's kind of easy to develop a bot. So I think we can actually start with the main part today, so with the RP challenge. If I don't have any additional questions right now, so tell me if I can just move forward.
You can move forward.
Yeah,
and
okay.
It looks like every other RPA tool, not to say that you copy something, but it looks like you drag the activities from the left into your canvas in the middle, and you have the properties to the right, and so on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very
so
intuitive.
You can drag and drop activities. You can double click on the activities, and they will appear on the canvas as well. So kind of
cool. And
yeah, pretty common.
Georgiy, if I interrupt you a lot, it's just because I find things very interesting. So I'll probably give you some questions.
No problem. So let's get back to the RP challenge. This is the website, and I remember this website when there were no other additional challenges here. So this is the fields challenge, let's call it this way. It's probably the main and the most popular challenge that they have. And the thing is that we need to download an Excel file. Oh, okay.
Maybe I will just quickly introduce this challenge for the viewers. This challenge, it it mimics some of the most used activities as we do as RPA developers, and we need to fill in some fields based on Excel data. And the fields, they are dynamic, so that will be a challenge. And this will look like another CRM system or something like that. And
let me just add to that.
Sorry.
I just want to provide a bit broader definition for those of you who maybe are not RPA developers. The reason of changing, of being able to work with fields that change their position or name or some other attributes is very important when you automate in an environment on UI level, and UI elements, they tend to change. Websites sometimes get upgraded, sometimes that's a new definition or something else. And it's pretty much the stability, and they need to rework your bot. We pretty much, if you can complete that type of challenge effectively, that means that developers who build the bot will spend less time on that for maintenance if the UI elements change over time. So I think that's pretty much the business value of that. Sorry, Georgiy.
I was going to introduce the challenge myself, but okay.
Sorry, Georgiy.
It's probably the next sort of automation when you're going to read thoughts.
Well, could you explain exactly how it works, like when you click submit button, for example?
The challenge itself, so you need to press the start button, and once you pressed, it's going to accept the values that you're going to type into these fields, and after you passed all the 10 rounds, it's going to give you the result. So, and the result is in milliseconds. And so, as was mentioned, the first and the main challenge is to be able to adjust to the changing positions. And the second thing, when the tool is actually capable of adjusting to positions, is about speed. So, the speed of working is is another measure. So, and we're going to see that our solution is pretty fast at it. So, let's start with the challenge itself. You need to download the Excel file, and then this Excel file contains like 10 rows. And each of the row you need to type into, the values of each of these 10 rows, you need to type into the fields. I would like to skip the part of downloading the Excel file through the platform because it's not really representative. And the final score that you could see before, it's calculated only through the it only considers the typing part. So it's not taking into consideration how long you download the file and all this kind of thing. So we can always do it later just in case we really need it. But I already downloaded the file, so let's just take a look at the file itself. And let's jump straight into the more interesting part. So this is the Excel file. I changed absolutely nothing in this Excel file, except for probably one thing. If you download the file from the website, you might notice that one of the columns, if I remember correctly, this column contained an extra space here, and I just deleted it because when I developed this the solution first for the challenge, I just made an error because I forgot to count this extra space. So we're not going to do the same mistake again. And also at the same, after all, the website gives you the exact results. So like 70 out of 70 fields were correct. So we're going to notice it anyway if we type something incorrectly. So let's just start with the challenge itself, and let's just return to the studio. Here we go. So what we're going to do is download. We're not going to download the file from the platform, but we already downloaded it. But the first action that we need to do is to read the Excel file itself. So I'm going to go to the data tables group of activities. And the activity that's interesting for me here is the root table activity. So I just drag and drop this activity into the canvas, or I can just double click on the activity name. And we can see two activities appear on the canvas. So the first activity actually reads the content of the file, of the Excel file, and the second activity saves it to a variable. So let's just provide a path to the Excel file. And that's pretty much it. We don't need to do anything else here, and let's just launch the bot and take a look at if it actually works correctly. So I just hit the run button, and as we can see in the console, there are no any errors and things like that. So we can go to the variables panel. We can see that the variable actually has some value here. If we click view, we can see that this is exactly the same table that we are dealing with. So And also we have this option to show source array, because when we talk about tables, it's a specific format of the variable. But the thing is that, and the good thing about solution, that we don't really need to know the structure of the variable. We don't need to go too much into the JavaScript syntax that we have as the core scripting language in our platform. So we support JavaScript. And I'm going to show you why just in a few minutes. So now that we've read the Excel file, we can actually go to the main part of the whole challenge. We're going to click the start button, and we're going to type values into the fields. So I'm going to add a few activities, just already like 3 activities, and I'm going to use them like just a placeholder, and I will just fill the parameters and set up the parameters later. And those activities would be open URL, because we obviously need to open the website, open the browser itself. We'll need to click on the start button, and we'll need to use the for each row activity, and this activity is going to iterate through each of the rows of the table, and we're going to do some repetitive actions with this table, with this data.
Is this ElectroNeek canvas, is this unlimited? I can build my workflow like all the way to the right, all the way to the bottom?
Yep, sure. You can just drag it here, for example. Yeah.
Do you ever, what do you do when you have a lot of threads going around? Do you build subflows, or what will you?
Sure. You can use the subprograms, but I suggest that we don't use programs today. Yeah, but the concept, you can actually use it. And my proper solution involves those subprograms.
Cool.
And it's a bit more readable. Yeah.
Sorry, for us. So just for a second, for us, subprograms are very important, because in the free bot model, people tend to build more simpler bots and then pretty much connect them as subprograms. It's very interesting for us. We never thought about like how a business model, for example, can affect the structure of code in an IDE, but it does.
Yep. So let's go back to the website, and all we need to do is just copy and paste this path to the activity, and we're done. Everything's done to open the website, open the link. And the next activity is click on an element, and that's where we're going to use the start button. On the right-hand side, I can see that I can press the pick new element button, and this button will prompt our tool that is called browser picker to open, and this tool will enable me to identify the element and refer to this element when I'm going to interact with it. So as you can see, as I hover my mouse over the element, I can hover my mouse over the start button, and it generated a selector for the element. So I think I would like to rename the element, because it generated automatically. The name was generated automatically, but it's not really representative to me. I'd like to use a more readable name for that. So in the advanced options, we're going to see some attributes. I'm not going to talk about this part at this stage, because we're going to use this part a little bit later. So let me just skip this part, press the test button to make sure that this select is actually unique, and press save. So that's pretty much it. When we, that's all we need to do to set up the click on element activity. And finally, we can go to the most interesting and the most I think cool part of the challenge. We're going to iterate through the rows of the table and type the values into the corresponding fields. So let's take a look at the for each activity. This activity accepts 2 parameters. The first one is the table itself. So we need to provide the source of data we want to iterate through. And in our case, this data is saved in the imported table variable. So that's all. And the second parameter is template table. So this is a bit more interesting parameter, because when we develop this activity, one of the most popular use case when it comes to working with tables is when you need to iterate through each of the rows of the table, and then you need to do some repetitive actions with each of the row. Just like in our case, we need to type the cells from each row into the fields on the website. This is a pretty typical RPA case. So given that we know that, we kind of imagine the structure of the table. We know that it contains like, let me open the table again. We know that it contains like seven columns, we know that the first row is used as the header, and I mean, why not using this structure, and why not generating automatically some needed things in order to process each row. Let me show what I mean exactly. If I press pick and if I specify the file I'd like to use as the, I forgot to save it. Yeah, I need to save the file to the folder. Let's call it RPA challenge native, because we're going to use our native functions here. So, oh, that's a strange thing.
Georgiy, I need to interrupt you for 10 seconds.
Okay.
I'll tell the viewers. I think this is really awesome to have such a demo with such a skilled guy explaining it, and I'll definitely myself take away some of the things that you present, like the way you present it. I think those are great. And if you want to help both me and ElectroNeek, you can give this video a thumbs up. That will improve all our reach. And back to Georgiy. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So just there may be a little bug here because I just forgot to save it. And let me just repeat the same workflow. I will just do it within just a second.
We love live demos.
It's always nice with these live demos. I mean, that's the reason why I never do live demos of my tutorials. I always record them and can just start all over. Make these.
But look how quickly he does it all without explaining us.
Yeah. He doesn't have to bother with us. You just say when you're ready, and we can.
Just don't forget to stop when you get to that moment.
Maybe we can take a question, Dmitry, while we are watching Georgiy build.
Absolutely.
Do we have any case study on SAP bots? Ankesh asks.
We do on UI level. So we pretty much at this moment where all of our product was about making UI tasks like desktop and browser really well and comfortable for the most junior developers. And then we start to build around it. So many functions are already there, but we don't have any native integration with, let's say, more enterprise software, for the reason that our customers in mid-market and SMB typically would need UI level automation. And even if they work with SAP, for example, they will use browser access to that. So our browser automation will work well in that situation.
Cool. And we can take another question while we're at it. Viru Paska, he asks how to extract database table data to spreadsheet.
Oh, we have the whole SQL set of functions there, and I think even maybe once we're done, maybe Georgiy can show some of that. But that's a standard task. It's pretty standard.
Sorry, can you see the screen now?
Yeah, we can see it, and we have a lot of questions for after the challenge here. So
yeah, sure,
that's really nice.
When I specified, we stopped at the part when I need to specify the source file, the template table, as I mentioned. Let's take a look at the other parameter here. We can see that the variables, what it means. As I mentioned, we can have the first row as the header of the table, but sometimes maybe there are no headers at all. There are no proper headers at the table. But we can always refer to the native Excel columns such as A, B, C, D, and so on. So this option tells me exactly this. So I'm going to use the first row as the header. And let's press show here, and we can see that it generated variables. You can see that the variable name row here for each of the column that I'm having in this Excel file. So let me just change the names of the two variables to be in the same style as the other ones. And what it's basically going to do is going to take every row of the table, and it will generate those variables for each of the row, and these variables will update their values according to the row we're currently at. And I'm going to show you in action how it's going to work. And this thing enables me to forget about the structure of the JavaScript variable. I don't need to know whether it's an object of array of objects. I need to refer to a particular array element and all these kind of things, because this activity does it for me. So I don't need to do it. And let me show you how you can achieve that. So I've actually set up the for each row activity, and now we're going to jump straight into the main part. We're going to type values into the fields, and we're going to press the submit button. So let's go to the keyboard group, and let's drag and drop the input to browser activity. I actually prefer to double click on the activity name, but it depends on people. We can expand the browser element drop down here. It's highlighted red because we haven't specified this option. And this is an important option because we need to work with a specific element here. And we can see that there's only one element that we specified on the Elements tab. And as you can see, by the way, I forgot to rename my Start button element, and I can do it easily here. And if I go back to the input to browser activity, I can see the same elements, but just renamed.
So what you did?
To use the start element here, we need to specify another one, and we're going to press the pick new element button. And once I press that, it will open the browser picker tool again, and I'm going to specify the field I'd like to type my value into. And the only thing I'd like to preserve is the is the field's order. And the order should equal to the order of the Excel column. So the first column is the first name. That's how I'd like to keep my project a bit structured, a bit predictable. So let's just specify the element and press and just rename it to first name. As I mentioned, the trick with this challenge is that every time you press the submit button, the fields change their position. So if I press the test button now, it's going to work. We can see that the selector is actually unique. But if I press submit button, for example, let's press it twice, 3 times. And if I press test now, the selector is not going to work. And this is because some of the attributes that we can see here, they're actually dynamic. And we need to exclude them from our selector to make sure that the selector is unique every time we press submit or every time we refresh the page. So in our case, we just know that there are the attributes that are dynamic. It's ID and name. So I can simply exclude them from the final selector. I would personally like to exclude the class name selector because, theoretically classes might change, while visually you may not notice the difference. But I think it's not going to influence on our particular bot, so let's just stick with this option here. So
and if I can interrupt you a bit to the viewers, if you are wondering what's going on here, that's the thing that we do. I solved this challenge in a wide variety of tools, and we do have to work with these selectors, and that's an important concept in RPA development to understand. Back to you.
Yeah. And in this case, we have a table, and the table is more readable than when it comes to, for instance, let's press save, and let's go back to the Elements tab again. So we not only support the picker version of the selector, let's call it this way, we also support CSS selectors and XPath selectors. So if you're an advanced developer, or just how to, for example, the Google page, the Google front page, I remember the selector myself of the type of the search box of the submit button. So I just don't need to pick it every time myself. You can just check it. The selector of the search field is name equals Q, and the selector of the submit button is name equals to B, T, and K, if I'm right. Yeah, and K is like a different case. So in some cases, it's just faster to use those options, but we're going to build just like a normal developer, a normal junior developer would go to the platform and just build a bot from the scratch. So let's just use the picker instrument again. Let's return to the input to browser activity, and I would like to indicate myself that it's first name. This is like a comment, and finally we need to provide which value we'd like to input to type into the field. So let's type first name, and that's all. Next, we need to do exactly the same with the second, am I right? Yeah, last name. With the last name field, let's expand the browser elements panel. Let's call the picker to open. It's going to be last name again. Yeah. So let's return to the website, last name. Let's rename it, last name. Let's exclude all these dynamic attributes, and I'm pretty much sure it's going to work. So last name, and calculate value. And again, we need to specify the value we'd like to type into the field. And this value is stored in the variable that's called last name. And why it's called last name, I'd like to remind about these variables here. Again, we need to do exactly the same a few times. So let's just add them. Pick new element. The next row, the next column is going to be company name. So let's specify this field. Let's rename it. Name, test, save. It's going to be company name. Calculate value. Company name. Again, the same. I think it should be automated, by the way. Role in company. Let's return to the website. Let's specify this column. Again, this is just my decision to keep the order of the fields. You can do it in any order you want. Just I like to keep my project a bit structured and predictable to me. Role in company. Pick new element. Address. The next one is going to be address. So let's just hover our mouse over the address field. Address. Again, we need to get rid of the dynamic attribute. Save. Address. Again, address. Yeah. And two more activities because we have two more fields. Pick new element. What's going to be next? I forgot. Email. Email.
Georgiy, your record time of 50 milliseconds, was that you that developed that solution?
No, this is going to be the next approach.
This one is a native one.
Yeah, I like the one that we all do.
Yeah, so. And finally, the final element would be phone number. So let's just phone, ID, name, save. Phone number. Great. And the last thing we need to do in this body of the loop is to indicate the submit button. So each iteration, the bot is going to click on the submit button to refresh the page, to refresh the form, and to input the values. Click on element again, pick new element, submit, yeah. So let's just wait for the picker to appear. Here we go. Advanced options, let's just make sure that it actually picks the correct element. Yes, we can see that there is the yellow rectangle, and I'm not sure if I need to change any attributes, so let's just keep this selector unchanged, and if something goes wrong, we can always edit the element, and the button will submit. So we're pretty much done with our loop, and finally, I would personally love to have the exact results that the website gives us in a message box, for example, or we can do it in a variable, just whatever you like. Let me replicate this scenario, so I would like to press submit 10 times. We're going to compare if I'm faster than the bot. Pretty fast. So this result I would like to have in a message box or maybe in a variable, just depends. So I'm going to use the get element value activity. This activity allows me to read a content from a web browser element. So let's just indicate element and save. Let's name it like result. You could also rename the element. And where would you like it to have? In a message box or in a variable? Just whatever you choose.
Message box.
Message box.
Message box. Okay, I could read it. Yeah.
Actually,
so, okay. Yeah.
There was a question. Coming regarding the web scraping. So maybe we can save it as a variable and then later save it somewhere.
Yeah, no problems. By the way, you can have this several elements option. This means that you can not only extract the value from one element, you can specify a range of elements. Say you like to extract values from 10 elements, and this would give you an array of the values read from these these elements. So.
Oh, that's that's a really nice feature. Maybe we can see that afterwards. Just a quick demo of that going into an array.
If I'm going to find a proper example, because it's better to see a proper example for that. So just
for sure.
If I manage to find this good example, yeah, I mean, no problems.
For sure.
So let's just replace the variable activity that we used and add the human in the loop activity. And here's the trick. As you could see in the beginning, that we saved the content of the table in the variable. And we could use the variable, we could refer to the variable, and we can actually use some JavaScript methods in order to process this variable if we need it. But in this case, my previous activity, previous compared to the user notification activity, returns some results. And if you look attentively to our parameters, we have this save the previous step result option. This result, you can see that the arrow is actually highlighted. When I press, just take a look at this. Yeah, it's highlighted. What it means is that the value will be passed from the previous activity directly into this option. So you don't need to have variables in some cases. Theoretically, you can build an algorithm without using variables at all. I mean, they will just be passed from one activity into another. That's the concept. So
that seems like another awesome feature that I haven't thought of I needed, but I might need it now.
Yep. So as you can see, we didn't use any JavaScript here, just some basic things like referring to a variable, and just like in this case, we didn't even refer to a variable. We just saved the previous step result. We're done. Let's close the file because we can't access the file when it's opened already. And let's just run and pray it works.
So you can see that right bot working window, that's pretty much the agent that is free to download and use on any computer to execute the file.
Can you see anything?
Nope.
Oh, maybe post.
Yeah, looks like the bot isn't stopped.
Okay. Yeah. 1 second. I just paused the sharing, and I forgot to enable it.
Dmitry, I'll take a question for you.
Yep.
How is Christoph? Thank you, Christoph, for your question. Christoph, he asked about exception handling. Is that something that you provide here in your tool?
Yep, I'm going to show it. And by the way,
we didn't want to disturb you, but you seem like
no
a win.
We do. Yeah,
there
are many great questions on the technical side. It will be easier to show in the end of that,
because
essentially we'll show you how they work.
Of course.
And here we go. Under 7 seconds.
That's a decent time still.
It is.
That's probably the best result I've seen so far. I mean, publicly. So, yeah. So as you can see, we built a workflow without referring to JavaScript methods, without filtering, sorting, addressing specific elements, using anonymous functions and all these strange, scary words, So about the exception handling, as you can see, each of the blocks have these. Every block basically has this red arrow, like red dot, if you like. This dot is exactly. This dot exactly catches the exception. So it's like a try-catch in programming. So if something goes wrong with my table, for example, I can process this exception by dragging an arrow from here, for example, to the next block. I could save it to a variable. For instance, I would like to read the exception message, and process it somehow. In this case, I could save it to a variable, for example, just like this. Okay, let me show you something like this. Save the previous step result, and let's call it, exception message, something like this. And this will save the exception directly to the variable. So we can actually process exceptions, and same goes with the subprogram thing. So we can process an exception that happened inside the subprogram. So pretty much every case is covered in our platform. So it is possible to process exceptions.
Cool, thanks for answering.
Yep. Tell me if you have any other questions before we move to the next part.
Gary, I have like 1,000 questions because this seems so interesting. But as Dmitry said, we will wait till after this demo.
Let's run the challenge first.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me create a new file. I'd like to save it. Say I have lots of testing folders here. Let's call it GS. The reason I called it JS is because we're going to involve JavaScript to perform the challenge. And what it means is that I have a sort of a code that performs some interaction with the elements on the page. So we're not going to build this code from the scratch. So let's just take that we have it already. And we're just going to execute this code directly on the page. And let's compare the speed in both cases. So I'm just going to copy these activities and paste it into this workflow. It's going to be the same.
And if we have persons out there that wants to replicate this one here, do they have to pause the screen and write down your code, or will you share the code afterwards?
It depends. But I think this code can be created by a junior developer because it doesn't use any complex things such as, say, I don't know.
I mean, we'll just show the code, so you can stop the video and take it from there.
I know.
If you want.
Yeah, so let's use the execute JavaScript activity. Let's press pick and specify the file where we have our code. If we take a look at the code, it has one function. This function takes one argument and returns a value. So we need to know it. We need to use it. So we need to, just 1 second, we need to provide the path, and the path, not the path, I mean the input data. And the input data is the array of people. In this case, I have to use such things, such words as arrays, maybe objects and stuff like that. So now we can take a look actually at the source of array here, and as you can see, it has an object, and each object has, the object has keys, and the values of the keys are arrays. So our table is an array of objects as well. So that's what we're going to use. Let's press calculate value, import to table, and list name. And then, just because we said it returns a value, let's save this value to a variable. We could use it, by the way, we could use this user identification activity again. Another look, user identification, say the previous step result. Just before I launch, tell me if you have any questions right now.
I do.
Okay, what's the question?
What will be the time that the bot will perform? What do you think? I will say 120 milliseconds.
Okay. Other versions?
What about you?
About me, I know. It's not interesting.
Yep.
Okay, let's just run it. Maybe it doesn't work at all. So.
It takes the bot to get to RPA challenge website and open it longer time than to complete the whole challenge.
Yeah, it happens even if I,
54.
Wow. But Gary, we need to try this 10 times. We need to break the record of 50 milliseconds. Can we please do that?
If I run it a few times, maybe 54 milliseconds will turn into 49 milliseconds. So it depends.
Please more. And guys out there, if you like these things, you can please help us with giving this video a thumbs up. That will improve our reach a lot. This is awesome, Georgiy. And as Dmitry say, it takes more time to load the page than to fill in the...
It's 52 already, 52. As you can see, we're going down, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get in there.
Yeah. We need to try a couple of more. And we can take...
Do you want me to try again?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay,
let's
do it again.
Let's pray the automation god.
Yeah.
It's going to be 53, I know it. It's going to be 53.
And why do you think that ElectroNeek is able to inject this JavaScript and perform it so quickly? 51. We need 2 milliseconds.
One more.
Come on. What do you think? Why is ElectroNeek so good at injecting this JavaScript? Because I think it will be the same script whether you perform it different tools.
I probably will go back where I started, that we pretty much built the tool from these type of use cases originally, and now 52. And pretty much, tried to make them really straightforward and to save our users. Of course, here you wouldn't see like any probably notable gains, but if that's a process that needs to be executed 1,000 times a day, there could be value from that. So, and I think it's about code structure in the first place. I always was wondering why there was not so much code, RPA code on GitLab or GitHubs in general of the world. And I tend to find that compared to other programming tools, let's say programming languages, typically you don't have the great bot structure because of the over complexity of different things, including people try to make bots that can do 3 things at a time. Or and here it's, again, shorter bots, probably simpler structure. And Georgiy's and the whole engineering team and our CTO's experience went into that. Our CTO, Mike, he spent years in Acronis, in cloud company, and pretty much brought a lot of this visual programming and cloud part. And browser apparently was the first animal to work on.
One more time, Georgiy. Yeah, sure.
I think it's a matter of tolerance.
Sorry, Dmitry.
1 millisecond.
We need to have it at 40 something.
Georgiy, what was our record when we first time completed it?
Like 48 or 49, something like that.
48.
I think it was 50. The one that you put on your YouTube channel, I watched that a couple of times, and that was 50.
50. Okay.
Yeah.
Not that it matters a lot, but it's definitely way the fastest times that I see with any RPA tool.
So I'm a former physicist. I can say that if we do around 30 runs, we can beat a normal distribution of that, and we'll know pretty much the right result of
well, I didn't run it 100 times, by the way, when I recorded this video.
Yeah, so 30 is enough. 30 would be enough statistically to prove here the difference.
Do you think?
Kind of
and if we should talk about how we can optimize this, what would we do in order to get a better time here? Would you say? I know it's theoretically because it's an awesome time, but
well, probably there's a. I mean, I'm not so good at probably JavaScript. But I assume that the code itself might be a little bit more efficient. Though it uses the for each loop, which is supposedly fine, and maybe those methods, they're not probably, they might sum up in an extra millisecond or 2 milliseconds. But it depends. I probably think it depends more on like what processes you have running on the computer right now. Maybe I need to just close a few that just result in so those like milliseconds.
As you mentioned, sharing the screen is pretty much what takes part of that.
Yeah, sure. So, but
I think as well, yeah.
But you got to promise us that when the session is done, that you will give it another go, and then if you beat it, then post a screenshot.
Okay.
I actually have a question to our audience, and just wondering, like, how often those of you who do RPA development on a daily basis, how often you use custom code? because for me, it was an interesting experience when we talked to our users. We found that specifically system integrators and managed service providers, they employ type of people who want to add some creativity on top of like drag and drop things. And they found that custom code, essentially, they see that as their way to differentiate from other developers. And they kind of take pride in that. I'm wondering if some of you can share that experience now in our chat.
Yeah, sure. And with this challenge over, we have so many great questions to ElectroNeek, and I have a few. And but to be fair, we will start with the viewers. And let's start from the end. We already covered a few of them. And this one, I'm not sure, but maybe you can, how to call one Neek file inside another file. That was the one you showed us with the sub, did you call it sub program?
Let me show the solution that I built before, just in a more proper way, how it is supposed to look. Maybe it's not the ideal one, but let me show the RPA challenge solution.
Because it uses subprograms.
Yeah. For instance, this is my solution I developed before, and I'm using the subprogram here that opens the browser, and I can just take a look at the subprogram. That's how it looks like. And I'm using the subprogram that's called get results. I'm using the subprogram. Just take a look. Just one activity inside the whole fruit row place here, and just because if we compare it with the first version, it's pretty bulky. It's difficult. I mean, in this particular code, it's not so difficult. But when it comes to real projects, if you have such bulky workflows, it's difficult to maintain. It's difficult to edit them. So that's why I
actually remember how that. I remember how we introduced subprograms. Apparently, they're great for better structure, but we were just an MVP stage, and we had a developer in India who took our. He worked at a BPO company. He took our software and he sent us a request saying, "Hey, I built a 1,000-step workflow. Could you provide like a bit better management on the canvas for the type of workflows?" We asked like, "How many steps you had? 1,000 steps there?" Okay, subprograms. Yeah. We need to build them immediately.
Cool. And let's jump right to the next question. I think we will cover these questions a little bit quick, unless you have something very cool to show in ElectroNeek, then we can go a little bit more to roughly. So we have the exception handling, the error handling. We have, what about logging?
What?
Logging.
First of all, we have this console log activity. It simply prints everything you put here to the console. Just let's have a quick demonstration, like something, and let's details. Something important. And I can choose the level for me. Let's say it's a warning. Let's launch it. Yeah, let's warn everyone. And I can see this message here, and I can press details and write some details. First of all, and secondly, we have this here. We're going to have very soon, just like probably in the very next release, we're going to have automatic logging. So you're going to be able to. There will be an extra tab here that's going to be called execution, and on this tab you're going to be able to activate automatic logging, and this automatic logging will log every activity you have. So you're capable of checking everything your workflow did. And also this this auto logging functionality will collect some system information about like what kind of application you have, what version it has, and all this kind of thing. So you're going to be able to log pretty much everything. We already have some logging. If you can see that there is the open folder with logs button, and this button opens the whole whole logs that we had. I also have some like history of logs here, so you can see some deprecated versions here. But yeah, so
cool. We have a lot of awesome questions. Ankus, he's good at asking questions. Great questions. Thank you, Ankus. he asked about how we can update elements. I think some sort of an object repository, like a library.
Yep.
How do we do that?
It's a bit more simple here. You can see that we have this Elements tab. And on this tab, you can see every element you selected when working with functions. So if I'd like to update this element, I can simply press change the element. And if I go to the element itself, I can just replace it with something else. Just I'm not going to do it right now, but just I can do it, natively. And same thing goes with the desktop interface. And even in the desktop interface, it's even more advanced. So we have a cool feature of replacing the dynamic parts of the selector.
Yeah. We already got requests for another demo on the desktop automation, so you can save it for later.
Okay. Okay.
And then maybe, I'm not sure if that's possible because that seems impossible in most RPA tools, or actually, is it possible to convert bots to exe files, like so we can orchestrate them ourselves, or if you understand what I mean?
Yep. Let's take a look at a very simple example. I'm going to create a super simple bot. It's going to be something like human in the loop. Let's create a super simple bot, something like hello world. It is supposed to be. Let's save it to a folder. Let's save it here. No, this is a normal repository. No. Okay, just 1 second. Let me. Oh, I just went too far away. Tests. Okay, let's create a new folder. Hello. This is going to be our bot. So let's first of all take a look. Let's check if it works. Actually, well, it actually works. And you would like to have this bot as an executable file to be able to run this file outside Electronic Studio, including Orchestrator. So how you can do it, if you want to publish it to Orchestrator, you need to press publish to Orchestrator. So I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm going to show you another way to do it. You can export it to a certain extension that's called Nix extension. And if you export your bot to this extension, let's call it hello, then it means that this bot can be actually launched through an application that's called Electronic Robot. Robot started successfully. You can see this. There is the button that. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a button called Run Bot. So let's return to the previous folder. It was called Demo. Hello. And as you can see, it actually executed the bot. And finally, you can execute this bot through command prompt, for example. You can provide a path to the source file, and it will execute it. So that's how you can do it.
Awesome, Gary. Thank you. And thank you for all your great questions. I mean, we have so many that I cannot believe it. It's really nice. Then we have Dennis Christensen. He says, nice walkthrough. Thank you, Dennis. And he asked if ElectroNeek is most suitable for real developers or citizen developers. What will you say here? Maybe that's Dmitry's business.
So let me take here 2 minutes on citizen developers in general. We recently completed review of all our customer base, and we know where citizen developers are, and we see many of them being successful in using the tool for their specific tasks. At the same time, we see where we know the tool is in hands of IT professionals, specifically in system integrators. They build more and more bots. So we see citizen developers using the tool mostly to solve their immediate problems. And we see professional developers being really, when I say professional, it could be a junior developer, but for whom this is an important part of their daily duties. They are much more, let's say, productive. And in general, these are like the agents of changes in their organizations, or these are great developers who build bots for their clients. And so far, we see our tool being the most suitable for that type of developers who maybe not necessarily want to commit to a long training, but at the same time, those who will get more from the tool, and they will be, let's say, better clients for us as well than citizen developers. At the same time, I'm a big fan of citizen development movement. I like to build simple automations myself. And you can definitely use ElectroNeek for that. But we build this bot really for developers to build many bots. That's how you get the most value from this model that we offer to market, which pretty much is unique. So I typically now would say that ElectroNeek is a tool for junior developers who want to build UI automations productively and effectively and make them completely hassle-free from any licensing.
And if a junior developer he jumps into ElectroNeek, how steep is the learning curve? Will he be able to get on with it in a few days, or should he spend more to learn about it? What did you say?
I think for each topic of interest, let's say it's browser automation or desktop, let's say your initial use case, that's a couple of days. Because building the automation itself is not the 100% of the developer's job. To build an automation that is sustainable, that is efficient, that's the most important part of the job. And that takes a bit longer. But we usually do 2-week trial. In the end of this, developers say that they're comfortable, moving forward, and they actually go into client to build projects. So that's kind of confidence they were able to build over 2 weeks.
Cool, Dmitry. And Marcelo, hey Marcelo, he says hi. I see that you rocketed yourself in lately in like the Gartner reports and these reports
G2.
that. What is it?
The latest report was, I think, Zinnov, but before it was G2 that put us in the right top quadrant of their momentum rating.
Yeah, and how? What I wanted to ask is, how is that possible? I mean, you see, of course, you have a great tool and all that. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. What you did here to be such a success that early, or not early, but.
So that ratings, they incorporate the growth velocity of how well you grow and how many users you get, how often they submit new feedback. That's pretty much it. And they also track many of your online activities, like how many client cases you get and so on, use cases, and how many developers are in the community. So the reason of our success there is, unlike all RPA vendors, at least I know, that sell a cost reduction to end users, to companies, which is a great sales moment, like pitch, but it's a different pitch from when you can sell something related to growth, to growing, to making something. Because of our model, our customers are not end users, but system integrators. So when we go and we sell them, when they become our users, we pretty much tell them, take this and build a business. Make money from this technology by serving your client. You will be able to sell RPA as a service like this, bypass IT procurement, and so on. And we have a quicker sales cycle. Because of that, we are a young vendor, but we onboard new system integrators so fast, and they are able to provide success stories so fast. Because their success is not building a bot for 6 months that reduces, headcount by 5 in some company. Their success is they are able to master the tool like Georgiy does, and they're able to sell automation projects to their clients. And we also have many reviews coming from smaller companies. We probably now have 40 maybe countries or something like that, where the users are. And it's just how we source the feedback, how we drive happy customers, maybe not to buy more from us, but to go and leave us a great review on G2 or something like that. So it's part of our brand strategy and different sales model.
Cool. And I think we have questions, and both for me and the viewers, enough for like 5 more sessions. I think we are about to come to an end. Is there something that you want to add, Dmitry or Georgiy?
Anders, first of all, thank you so much for your time. I think we should come again with a different story, and for example, desktop case or something like that. So we'll be happy to continue discussions. So I've seen there are many questions. They're unanswered, part of them. You have my LinkedIn, I think, in the YouTube video, or Georgiy's LinkedIn. Feel free to bump the questions to us, or go to our website and register for a demo. And that's where you can see the things you want to see yourself with your IT team, or however you want to run it.
Cool. I will. If you viewers, if you have any questions to this session, post them in the comments after the session below, and I'll make sure that I will take all these questions to Dmitry or Georgiy or both, and I'll get back with some answers. Thank you. And thank you, the both of you. I will just expand the image here I had. We had with all our pictures. So I'm really happy that you took your time to come here and show off your awesome product. It seems very intuitive to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who watched that.
See you.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.